Hello, John.
Hi, Chris. It's great to be with you.
Yes, it's been wonderful working with you and the whole team at Civitas Advisors, and of course the team of Adam Sachs, Jeff, and everyone at Tourism Economics. Why don't you kick off and give a quick update to what's happening with the Funding Futures study, some of the key insights, and what's next?
Thank you so much, Chris. And it's really a pleasure to be with you today. It's great to be sort of sandwiched in between here, between Amir and Mark. They both have such great information to share. We're happy to be here sharing what we can about funding opportunities for DMOs that we're seeing out there. And this is a study that we're working on, and I want to say special thank you to our partners at Miles Partnership, and of course, Tourism Economics. I also want to say thank you to US Travel for helping sponsor this effort, as well as the Destination Marketing Association of Canada. The reason I think this is so exciting is that we have an opportunity. Collectively, we have an opportunity right now, a political opportunity, because our federal, state, and local officials know that our industry has been decimated. And you don't have to look any further than that last poll results or the information Amir shared to know that the industry has suffered greatly from this terrible disaster. They want to help us, and especially if our requests are not about more funding. Of course, we're all doing that. We're looking for ways to get money out of the governments, and we're going to be talking about those in just a second. But where we've got chances to change policy, they are more willing than ever right now to give that to us. And we need to take advantage of it as an industry and find policies out there. Yes, ask for the funding. Yes, get our fair share, but also look for policy changes that will help us build back better after the crisis. And this study is all about giving folks choices and letting them know of opportunities that are out there. So my hope is we're not just putting this study on the shelf, we're doing it so that DMOs have some actionable items that they can move on and actually make a difference in the long run for their destination. Boy, we started out small, didn't we, Chris? We had, well, originally we were going to do a very large study. COVID hit. We said, well, we got to really scale this back. Most of this is pro bono. It's grown and grown as we've seen other things that we wanted to add and things that we thought would be helpful to the industry. We've done a whole round of surveys. We've still got surveys out in the field. We've done focus groups with DMO leaders. We've done desk research on tax rates, on state travel office funding. We've pulled in information from Europe. We partnered with the Now Group, and we've got some good European information in addition to our Canadian partner information. And finally, of course, the economic forecasting that Tourism Economics is working on. We all get forecasts. You all have seen a lot of forecasts. These are going to be the latest and greatest, and specifically are going to relate back to budgets. So I think you're going to find those forecasts very interesting and very helpful. This slide shows the timing, and we're well underway. In fact, we're getting ready to release a discussion document tomorrow. That will be our first foray into this. It's going to give you some interesting first information about what we found and what we're offering. We are soliciting comments back, and then we will have the final report out by August 20th. And we actually are doing a webinar with US Travel on August 20th to present our results. But today we wanted to give your viewers a little sneak peek. We wanted to give them a little bit of information to share of some of the things that we're finding. And if you remember, 2 years ago, our firm worked with US Travel and did a study on all the hotel tax rates, all the fees and charges on hotels, all in across the country. We looked at 100 destinations. This study updates that. So we actually, for the first time, were able to use a benchmark and look at what's happening to those rates. No surprises. 24% of the destinations actually had an increase. We saw the average go from 14.6 to 14.9% across the country as an average. And for larger cities, it shot up even more, went from 15.4 to 15.9% on average across the country. We're going to have a lot more information in the study itself and pack it with analysis like you see at the bottom here of the various regions and how they compete. But hopefully it will give folks a lot of really good information about their comp set. How are others doing it? What are they charging in other places? And how does that reflect on our destination? I mentioned the discussion document that is coming out tomorrow. We are going to be posting that so folks can take a read, take a look at where this study is going, and have a chance to give us some critical feedback. So this slide really shows you the heart of what we're doing, really talking about 10 funding opportunities for DMOs. And you can see we've broken that into 3 categories. First, response; second, resilience; and third, regeneration. So what I wanted to share with everybody today, I'm going to talk for just a brief minute about response and some of the emergency funding that we're looking at and talking to folks about. Talk a little bit about resilience, then I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk a little bit about regeneration. But you can see within each one of these categories, we're talking about concepts, some that have been out there, some that are novel, some that are being applied in different ways, and it will give all of you, hopefully, some really good ideas about what can you do with your funding, what are the options that are out there, and what can you take advantage of right now as we're dealing with this crisis. So on the emergency funding front, these are things I'm sure most of you are familiar with: the EIDL loans, the EDA grants. There are a lot of DMOs still working their way through the EDA grants. They are not easy, but I suspect we will see several folks come out successful on the EDA grants. It's worth noting that U.S. Travel has a bill in $10 billion of funding essentially for DMOs through an EDA grant process. So the more you know about EDA grants, the more you're connected with EDA, you sign up, you get registered with grants.gov, and all of those items, you'll be get a running start for what we think is coming in the future. I know many DMOs right now are out there fighting for the coronavirus relief funds. These were monies given to the state and local governments that they have discretion in terms of how those funds get allocated. And we're working with several destinations right now that are fighting for those funds and to get those discretionary grants of money. And of course, I think if you don't know, Congress is talking about extending PPPs to 501c6s. You haven't been on a U.S. travel webinar in the last few weeks. It looks very promising that will get extended. Our message to all of you is get ready early. There's a lot to do to compile your records and get things together. We're putting in this report some of the things that you need to compile so that when that application process opens, you're at the front of the line. Second, boy, we have talked to so many folks about building reserves, and it runs the gamut. I'll tell you, some folks aren't allowed to have any reserves, some DMOs, right? The government says if you have any money left at the end of the year, you turn it back into the government. And on the other end of the spectrum, we've talked to DMOs that have over a year's worth of their expenses in a reserve account. And if you have a shortage of reserves, now is the time to change that policy. And if you need government approval, there is no better time than now to be asking for government approval to change those reserve policies. We know cash is tight. We know that resources are down. It's going to take a long time to build reserves. But if you need to change the reserve policy, now's the time to do it. Do want to give a shout out to my friend Kevin Kane in Memphis, who's always been a big believer in reserves. In addition, he formed a tourism improvement district to boost his budget. It allowed him to boost his reserves significantly, and he has done a great job of really having significant reserves for what is a very, very difficult time. And so with this, I want to turn it back to you, Chris.
Thanks a lot, John. And just a couple of other sort of areas we've highlighted in what is a pretty comprehensive look at those 10 options and opportunities. The whole issue of shared risk. We've been doing some research. I want to give a shout out to Destination Analysts who helped us with the survey of all the DMOs. They also were involved in a big meeting study of meeting professionals and event planners. And that highlighted a critical issue around the return of major events and conferences. There's a significant belief from those professionals that risk around a recurrence of the pandemic, even once we're on top of it, that it's changed the landscape and risk, and we're going to need some more creative approaches to public-private insurance that can mitigate that risk. And we're going to be sharing in the discussion document a range of examples from around the world of pooled public-private insurance policies. Visit Florida's had a program in place for I think, close to 15 plus years, which covers the hurricane season. So there's some models here in the States we can build on. And then finally, just in terms of the whole area of regenerative funding, we've really highlighted the opportunity to have a look at some of these taxation and fee mechanisms and apply something that is fundamental to market economics in travel, which is yield pricing. So we want to incentivize certain types of travel and disincentivize others. So really, we're going to be amplifying the opportunity for looking at different pricing mechanisms, more responsive pricing mechanisms that can hopefully not just generate revenue, but also drive other outcomes that we want. So a reminder, August 20th, we're going to be issuing the full report. There's going to be a webinar with the Destination Council of US Travel. That is now available on our website to register. We'll be promoting that, and we look forward to your attendance. A couple of DMOs from cities and states will be joining us to talk about the implications and outcomes and next steps from the study as well.